Hi, team. So today is such a cool episode. We got Ray back and we do the 7 things we're going to stop doing. And essentially, it's just trying to add as much value as possible. And if one of these things resonates, then go with that. You don't have to do all 7. We just try and give a little bit of an explainer off the back of them. And they are things that have really made a difference to us in parenting, in business, in friendships, in relationships, in all sorts. And if we had more time, we could flesh them out, but we're trying to not make sure we're taking up too much time when we're talking, and we're trying to make them as effective and valuable as possible, getting some really cool feedback on the effect that this is having on different people's lives. And it's really cool to see people reaching out and actually sharing that with us, because sometimes you just don't know. And actually, even though we are doing the podcast, it's really good to know that it's landing well for some people. So yeah, anything you've got for us, send it our way. Share, like, subscribe, anything that it is. We appreciate you and enjoy the episode. That's got ice blocks in it.
Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle.
Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast. And yes, you're seeing double. And no, you're not seeing double, but you are seeing double. As in, your vision is fine, but there's 2 of us.
But if you're on Spotify, you're not seeing anything.
I'm just explaining, like, you can see white walls. I'm wearing a white shirt. No, I'm joking. So welcome back. It's nice to have you all. For our loyal listeners, and then for our new listeners, it's great to have you back, both of you. So what are we speaking about today, Ray? And by the way, welcome back. I didn't introduce you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's what I thought you meant when you said you were seeing double. That there was actually 2 posts.
That is what I meant.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Well, I'm super excited about tonight's topic. I challenged Don to think about the things that he is going to stop doing in 2025 to make an impactful year. So he has come up with his top 7 things that he's going to stop doing in 2025. And as like a bit of a teaser, I'm most excited to talk about number 7. I think it's going to be a good one.
Me too. Yeah. When we get there, I'll explain why it was my.
And I think
choice.
number 7 is going to be the one that's going to have the greatest impact on your year.
Yeah.
It's quite a big change.
If you can remember to keep doing it.
So should we get cracking?
Yes, we've got 7 to get through, and we don't want to be 5 hours. We'd rather just be 2. So.
And if you hear the shaking, rattling sound, don't talk about it. It's in my cool Stanley. You know, I'm cool enough to have a Stanley.
It's one of those ones that, I don't know if you see it, like the influencers when they make fun of things. This is one of the things where they get an oversized Stanley, and there's this person walking along the park, and they're like battling to hold this thing up with a massive straw.
So Don and I are sitting here like the cool kids. We've got our blue light glasses on, because it'll be bedtime after this.
Yeah.
I've got my cool Stanley. I'm busy fasting at the moment, so I've got my fasting minerals in my Stanley.
Congratulations. 2 hours in. So hard now.
I'm more than 2 hours in.
There we go.
It's not. I would normally, so we ate dinner at 5 o'clock. So I normally would have had like some chocolate and a cup of coffee now, some 90% dark chocolate and a nice
Which
cup
is
of coffee.
progress, isn't it? 90%.
Yeah. But so I would normally have had my yummy little 90% chocolate, a couple of squares.
No, you normally would have had
coffee.
70%.
But so now I'm genuinely feeling fasted, even though I'm only like 4 hours into fasting, and I will only eat after the like 16-hour mark.
Also, I really want to just, you keep not pointing
the 90%.
that out.
It's because I found a 90% dark chocolate, because I normally was having 70 or 80%.
And she was like, I'll never have more.
Go any higher.
Not in that voice.
But then
obviously.
I found a really nice 90% one that doesn't taste yucky. But
it's not 100 yet.
I don't think I'll ever go to 100.
Mark my words, people. Water wears down rock eventually. Okay, so we're getting sidetracked. You're distracting me.
Okay, so your 7 things that you're going to stop doing in 2025, and I'll also chip in here on thoughts.
And you did. So when we were planning this, you did have some suggestions, and your first suggestion was stop drinking alcohol.
No, it wasn't. Okay, it was a suggestion, and I said that, like, had you thought about talking about the fact that you would stop drinking alcohol in 2025? Because if you aren't aware, up till now, and Don might have spoken about on previous episodes, how basically I think 2024 was the year where you really said you're pretty much going to stop drinking, and your plan was only to drink once or twice, and you did only drink once or twice.
Well, yeah,
in 24.
it was a funny approach. It wasn't a different
and
approach.
then you've since spoken about maybe just completely stopping, and not like not pretending, but not like having that saying to people, oh, we'll drink once or twice.
No,
just saying, I'm not drinking. And so I was just more questioning whether that would be one of the things like that would make it on your list of important things that you want to talk about that you're going to stop doing.
Well, the reason I thought it was good to include this is because if we haven't spoken about it, it's a good time to speak about it, because last year, I didn't go, I'm no longer a drinker. I just didn't say, I don't drink. And I think it's because it was a neutral way of me going, I don't have any intention to drink, but I'm not going to be the person who goes, I don't drink anymore. And then 6 weeks later, you see me drinking. And then so everyone's like, oh, you see you drinking. So when Ray did say it, I was like, but I had half a cider on my birthday last year and stopped halfway through. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't do anything for me anymore. So this year it was like, yeah, I have again, zero intention of drinking, even on my birthday. Whereas last year I got to my birthday and I was like, oh, maybe I should have one just to see.
Because you started 2024 saying you're pretty much going to stop drinking, but you will have it on special occasions.
No, that was the year before. Then this year I didn't put the special occasions in. I was like, I might.
Whereas I think you officially have now decided 2025 is that you're gonna stop drinking.
And you know what? I want to just caveat is not because I have ever had a drinking problem. I think it's when I realize where I want to end up. In no format does drinking serve that purpose. So there's things about inducing anxiety, like messing up your sleep, what it does to your immune system, cancer, all that kind of yes, you can fearmonger around it. But realistically, it just, for me, it doesn't serve a purpose. And then the next layer down is from a personal growth point of view. I think a lot of the reason people drink is because it helps them feel uninhibited. Mm-hmm. That means I've had a couple of drinks, I like to dance, and I just free. So that's why I drink. And so my challenge that is, well, if that's what it takes for you to feel free, it's not the alcohol that you need. You need to work on yourself and your need to be accepted, because that's alcohol takes your inhibitions away. And so the only time you feel free is when you're no longer clouded by the thoughts that go, well, someone's watching you, you look silly dancing. And actually the work is to challenge yourself to go, I'm going to dance as if nobody's watching, and I'm going to actually feel like I'm free without alcohol. And that for me is such a good sign of what's the progress you're making in terms of your ego, yourself, and your thoughts that you can't see. Is if you're not comfortable on a dance floor, unless you're drinking, the work isn't the fact that you drink, it's what the drink allows you to become.
And also, I think it's important to note, just to give context, because obviously I'm around Don a lot, he's completely not anti-drinking. So this isn't you shouldn't be drinking. This isn't an episode to say it's time to stop drinking. It's just, I suppose, applying thought to the fact that you drink maybe every weekend or every night or whatever. Just think about why you do that, and just question your motivations behind it. And maybe if you really get into it, you might realize, well, actually you could cut out maybe 20% of the time that you drink because it's unnecessarily. It's just thinking about what you are putting in your body and whether that's serving your future purpose, and just being more conscious of that.
Yeah, and I think we'll end it off now because we don't want to go too long on each one. But it's introducing this principle of curiosity. So when one of the effective ways of stopping smoking is when they get people to be just be curious about your cigarette. I think we may have talked about this before. It's what does it taste like? How does it make you feel? How does it smell? And that often, when you bring awareness around to it, people are just this is disgusting. Why am I doing it? And it's the same thing with alcohol. It's go and do whatever it is you want to do. This isn't from judgment. We're talking about what drives us and just some thoughts around it. And often when you're listening to someone else speak, you're actually, why do I drink? It's just something that I've always done. That's what you've got to question. If it's because you think that that's the social norm, times are changing. It's okay to, recognize the things that aren't serving us. We know a hell of a lot more than we did 5 years ago, and a hell of a lot more than we did 10 years ago. And so what are the things that are reinforcing what we don't like about our current situation? One of them could be alcohol. But your chimp in your head is going, nah, it's not that. We need that. You're fine. Keep going. And it's going to reinforce the message that keeps it safe.
So great. That's number one. You're going to stop officially drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
Even though
and I don't want to bring the what you resist persists. So I'm not going to.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the next thing that you're going to stop doing? And hopefully, the idea of these stop doing, things that Don is going to stop doing in 2025 is to hopefully inspire you, if you're listening, to think about your own things. Because often we get so focused on what we are going to do, but we just wanted to dedicate an episode to what we're going to stop doing.
It's like a stop doing list.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So what's the next thing you're going to stop doing?
So this was more of a recent, I'd say not initiative, but something that we've put a lot of unintentional focus on. And it's stop saying no to the kids when they're asked to play. Now, obviously, we've got 4 kids. We've got lots going on. We're constantly on the move. And it's so easy when you get home and your kid comes and does like a bid for connection, and they go, let's go and play tag, or let's go and play in the trampoline.
Or they don't even use words. They start to wrestle you, and you don't recognize that they're actually you just getting irritated. You think, oh, why are they touching me? Why are they pushing me over?
A classic, I'm so overwhelmed.
But they actually are just wanting you to engage back with them.
Yeah, so we've made a concerted effort to start to say yes and start to play with them, even when, and like Miles can be quite like, when something's really fun, he wants to double down on it. So then it's like we find it. Are you right?
I'm pulling a face because I don't know if this wasn't mixed properly, but I just took a sip and got like, it's still in my mouth, like a mouthful of salt. It's disgusting.
Oh, careful.
Interrupting the podcast. I was quietly suffering.
You were not quietly suffering. You couldn't have been shouting louder with your face. This is on YouTube, by the way. So if you can't watch this on Spotify, you listen, it's at about 10 minutes in. Go and look at Ray's face.
Going back to the
yes,
point,
he doubled down.
Yeah. He will often he can get very intense, like when he gets like a good enjoyment from something, or like
he wants to double.
He wants to just go more at it. So he'll find like if we're having fun with him, he wants us to just.
Well, like he understands when the game's over, but the next day he'll come down and be like, can we play that game again? And for 3 days in a row, you're like, yes, it's great. I've been running around the house playing tag. But on the 4th day, you're like, it's one of those where you've woken up early, you've had lots going on, and you just want to get home and like connect in a slower way. And he comes, he's like, please, can we play? And you're like, no. And then he gets upset because that's a bid for connection in that relationship. So it's just about, sometimes I'll initially say no. And then Ray goes, oh, come on, go and play with him. And then when I start playing with him, you just get this surge of energy. And so one of my notes is like, we move further and further away from a youthful energy
as we get older.
Yeah. When we give into those initial blocks of I'm tired, no. But actually, if you can take one step over those initial blocks, I'm like, okay, I'll start playing with you and let's see where this goes. You actually end up tapping into their energy, or you reignite your own energy, and it brings in this whole concept of play into your world. And it just takes over, and you end up having more fun than the kids. And you almost get this positive dopamine hit, and you go like, oh, I'm actually really enjoying this. And I've found that a lot, especially like we're now into Feb, and we've been playing a lot of like tag around the house, on the trampoline, in the dark, and wrestling a lot, and just going back to how you used to when you had one kid. But now you just learned about all 4.
How many kids 5. Do you have again?
You as well, sometimes.
There's only 4.
But it's just one of those things where I know we can have every excuse to say no, because yes, you're tired, and yes, you've played, and but I've given you everything I've got already. What else do you want from me? Those are all the chimp speaking. And actually, sometimes you can just say yes to them and go, and even if it's just, okay, let's go and play for 5 minutes. Just watch where that takes you. And you start to create a much better vibe around the house, and it starts to feed you. And it creates this place where you enjoy coming home to, because it almost lifts you up, because you know everyone's in a good space. And when they're not, you then go, I know when we play, it actually helps. So you start to go towards play a lot more as a solution than before, where you used to just create walls and bash heads with strong individual willed kids.
And like, if your kids are older, or if you've said no to them a lot, you may find that those bids for connection or play aren't there.
Yeah.
So for you, it may not be so much of a, if you're listening, it may not be so much about not saying no, but about actually maybe igniting it again and saying, come, let's play a board game, or let's do this to get that going.
We keep saying bids for connection. And so like in a marriage and relationships, you'll often have conflict when bids for connections get rejected, but you don't know that's a bid for connection. Like if I walk in, I want to chat to Ray, but she wants her space. That's my bid to connect. And then if I get rejected, that's like, it creates a block. And you have lots of micro bids for connections all the time. So with your kids, if you're aware that how you can bond with them is by realizing what their bids for connection are, not when it's on your terms, you actually start to connect with them better. So yeah, it kind of ties in.
Yeah. So what's the third thing that you're going to say?
Well, I'm going to throw this back to you.
Because this is the one that
and it's been recently for you. I've seen a noticeable change, I think today, is what is the one that you wanted to put here?
I just said one of the things that I was going to stop doing in 2025 that I've definitely been very guilty of in the past many years is I'm going to stop making unrealistic schedules for myself. I don't want to say, because schedules in a sense are like your goal for the day. So I don't think it's about, I think I've always had this big thing about like, should a goal, let's talk like big picture, like a goal for like a year from now, 5 years from now, should it be realistic or unrealistic? And I've come to realize the importance of having, I'll say inverted commas here, unrealistic goals, stretch goals. But I think it's very
Water
important
breaking down
when
rock.
you break it down into what your plan is for, like a plan for the day or the week, to not. I always kind of have always built out a stretch plan, and maybe stretch plans,
in inverted commas,
or stretch schedules, or stretch to what you're going to tick off on your to-do list for the day. I think they just make you constantly feeling like, oh, I missed the goal again. I'm not the goal. I missed. You just feel like you're letting yourself down the whole time. Whereas I'm going to stop setting unrealistic expectations, because this week even, I've really worked on because I do time blocking. You may not, you may have like a to-do list, and you may have an idea of what you expect to get done or what you hope to get done each day or each week. And I was like treating my schedule very much like I'm a machine, and just having like these half an hour blocks, like very much scheduled out.
Machine queen.
I didn't have any buffer in my schedule for like
life,
ad hoc things to come up in my work day or anything.
Life or emotions.
And so 90% of my days I would not hit everything that I had planned to do in that day. And it just feeds into this like negative loop, and I'm always feeling like on the back foot. So my plan, I'm going to stop doing that. In 2025, well, I'm going to focus on just being more realistic about what I'm going to achieve in my day, and leave myself a buffer.
Maybe a yes and a maybe. So like, yes, I know that if I've got 6 hours, I can do these 4 things.
Yes.
And then the maybe is, if I'm feeling inspired, I'll get to those.
Yeah.
And I think, I lost it. I had something to say and now it's gone.
Sorry.
Carry on going. It's okay.
No, that's all for me. That was just a big thing that I'm like, for me, when I was like, while we were having this conversation about what we're going to stop doing in 2025, I think I'm just going to stop setting unrealistic plans for the day.
Because you're robbing yourself of a sense of achievement.
That's it. Like that's what I was trying to say. So thanks for like.
You're most welcome.
Putting
interpreting it. Yeah.
It's like getting to the end of each day and not feeling that sense of achievement, because it's another day that I haven't done what I thought
so
I
like
would
it's so interesting on that point. If you set yourself 8 things and you achieve 7 of them, in your mind you're like, didn't get. But if you set yourself 5 things and you achieved all 5, you've like nailed my to-do stuff. And if you did 5 and got to 7, you'd be like, I had a very productive day.
Whereas I was maxing out my plan for the day. So I would either hit that or miss it. I could never have the chance of exceeding it.
Yeah.
So I think by doing that, I'll probably get the same amount done. Because let's face it, there's a certain number of hours in the day. But I will just feel more accomplished each day.
You're giving yourself the choice again, aren't you? So like, you're not forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. So the choice of like, I've gotten to 5. Now I'm going to do 7. Whereas before you're like, I got to 5 and I still need to get to 8.
Which is kind of even what happened today. So I had like back-to-back meetings of like 4 hours of meetings. And normally I would have then scheduled a whole lot of other stuff, but I actually gave myself a nice 3-hour block or 2 or 3 hour block just to do emails. And I was like, you know what? Like, I feel frazzled. So normally I would have sat down and forced myself to actually just, I've got only an hour for emails. I need to crack on. But because I had 2 or 3 hours, I was then like, okay, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk. I went for a walk.
Nice.
Walked to my friend's salon, who's just down the road, had a chat with her for 5 minutes, walked back, had a cup of coffee at my desk, and then I was ready to go again. So like that 30-minute break allowed me to move into the next phase refreshed. I would never have built that in my sort of schedule before. So I'm going to stop setting unrealistic schedules for myself or plans.
And learn when you do. And if you make mistakes, then it's fine. That's growth. So this is growth, right? We're witnessing growth here. It's amazing.
Okay, so what's the 4th thing I'm going to stop doing?
This one is a big one. It's compensating for others. Now, what does that mean?
Yeah, because for me, that's a lot of words, compensating.
So compensating for others is, for example, if you've got your time schedule set out and suddenly someone comes along and says, can you do me a favor? You might be good at going, no. But there's a lot of people that go, sure, what is it? So the compensating for others is when you start to prioritize other people's needs above your own all the time. there is a balance. But I think sometimes you don't realize when you've got that balance off unless you actually start to think, I'm compensating here. Like I know that I need to sit down, I need to focus here, but someone's messaging me and they've got an issue. So I'm just going to take 5 minutes to reply to that and I'll just start my thing later. And if you have 15 to 20 of those every day, and they're small things, they add up to a hell of a lot.
Yeah, they do.
And if you're not aware of this compensating for others, you might just think you're being a good person, you're doing all of that to help others, and that's going to come back to you. It might. But actually, what's going to be the best thing is when you can serve yourself and then realize that compensating, if you put it onto a scale, and a scale of 10, you don't want to compensate all the way to 10 out of 10. You can compensate maybe 3 or 4, but not to the extreme. And I think sometimes we get that balance out. Yeah. And if we're not aware of it, it just goes more and more.
And like, I know sometimes I'm quite big on like, if I plan to do something and like I'm in the middle of an hour block of doing something, you'll sometimes have come to me and you ask me to do something that you know will only take me 5 or 10 minutes. And I say, like, I will do this for you tomorrow night. Like, it's a day or two later. And I know
there's stop treating me like an employee.
Irritation and you've been irritated with me. And that's, I suppose, what you're talking about, where I sometimes say no.
Yeah.
And it's because I've just set a very clear intention of what I needed to achieve in that hour. And if I give you that 10 minutes in that moment, I will always be like, I can help you, and this is when I can help you. And I'll set, like, it might be in 2 days' time. I will gauge it depending on urgency and importance, and then plan it in. But I very rarely, if someone comes to me and say I can do it right now, I'll normally tell them it can be done.
Because the flip of that is, if I come to you and you give me that 10 minutes, that means that whatever your plan is you, in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm compensating it. So
it also interrupts flow.
Yeah, but not necessarily just flow, because you're not always in flow. But it's the difference between I'll make a sacrifice and I'll do whatever it takes. And this is a slightly different. I'm going to take you left to field here. But when you say I've made a sacrifice to get you, it means you've given up something that you want to get that. Yeah. And you always end up looking back and regretting the sacrifice, or that sacrifice is almost like a reward-centered motivation. It's like, I've sacrificed everything to get you. So it's almost like, if you think to yourself, I've sacrificed so much, when you use that word, understand that you've basically said, I've given up things that are important to me to get this, which means that it's never going to be a truly whole achievement, because you're always going to have this regret that, like, I sacrificed. But if you say, I'll do whatever it takes, it means that you don't see a sacrifice as a sacrifice. You see it as a necessity. So when you get to the end goal, you're like, yes, I've achieved this. I did whatever it takes.
How does this feed into God?
So when you compensate, you're sacrificing. So it's that you got to understand that by you helping me, you're sacrificing something for you. And even if you help me and it feels good, there's always going to be a piece of you that you go, I've sacrificed 10 minutes. And if I keep doing this, there's a whole little bits of me that I'm leaving behind in my trail. And even if this feels good for everyone else, there's going to be something in me that's not quite whole.
An interesting way, like a simple way to remember that, I think it was James Ashford. I think that's where I first heard this idea. But James Ashford is just like a coach type person in the accounting space.
Would you say he's a coach?
Well,
I'd say he's like an inspirational business owner that's been super successful and just loves helping people. He's
created a piece of software specific for accountants, and even now that he sold off that piece of software, he still posts and does a lot of support aimed at others, accountants.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a coach.
I wouldn't call him, but I would never put him as a coach, because he's not like James Ashford coach. Okay. He's like a person of authority
in an area,
and he likes to just give value.
But that's kind of what a coach is in my mind. So okay,
maybe. Anyway, we've got time. Yeah.
So he this idea that whenever you just like do something, so let's take the situation of me I'm in the middle of like an hour block of work I'm doing, and Don or whoever comes and asks me to do something for 10 minutes for them. Whatever decision I make and whatever decision you make, you're always saying no to something.
Yeah.
So me saying yes to Don is me saying no to what I wanted to do. So I think what a lot of people do, so this idea of that Don's going to stop compensating for others, he's going to stop, that means kind of you're going to stop always saying yes. And I think the key here is that you can ask yourself is, if you're always saying yes to things that come along, ask yourself what you are saying no to in that moment. Because you're always saying no to something. Okay. So if you say yes to, I don't know, working an extra hour, you're saying no to seeing your kids and playing your kids. So there's always saying no to. So it's important to, as you make a decision, ask yourself, what am I saying no to? And am I happy with what I'm saying no to?
Yeah, I like that. And I'm not going to expand on that because
Yes.
I think it's a really good principle.
Okay, so now we're on to point number 5 that you're going to stop doing in 2025.
Stop blaming the world for my problems.
Okay.
And I like this one because I think we're pretty good at it already. It's like bringing back the power to you, like bringing back the control that you've got. But the simplest example is how often do you interact with people and in a workspace and they make you angry? And then you say, you're making me angry, or that person really
Or
pisses
you
me
even
off.
say to your kids, you're making me angry.
Yeah. And Laurie gives it back to me because I've taught her this. But essentially what you're doing is you're blaming something out of your control for your problems. So if you think about the news, the government, and all the things that are going on there, all you're doing is you're placing your control, your power into something else that you can't control. And then you just wait for it to change, which leaves you stagnant. And the principle, and I think I've always had this principle, but you will constantly go in and out of it. So you'll be in a situation where you're like, oh, this problem's there, but it's fine. I'm going to control what I can control. But it's when those layers get deeper that you don't realize that that's when it starts to undermine you. So you don't want to, if someone's making you angry, the quicker you can go, I'm choosing to get angry. Why am I letting that person make me angry? Is you realize that your control of your emotions, you're going, here you go. You can make me angry. Therefore, I'm putting my emotions in your hands. But I expect you to deal with them in a correct way, and you better do it the way I want to. And then they don't. You're like, oh, you even make me angrier, and you just go in that spin. And it's the same for like if you're sitting in business, if you're sitting like with troubles with your spouse or with your kids. Ultimate responsibility is a massive theme at the moment that like it's resonating with a lot of people that I work with in business and just in life. You have to realize that ultimate responsibility is a huge thing. It's it sucks to have to do, but it makes such a difference when you stop giving control of what you've got to everything else around you, and you just like my daughter at the moment, like Laurie, when she's like, "Oh, Daddy, why are you shouting?" I'm like, "Because like this is the 10th time I'm asking, and you guys are still not listening, and why is it like that?" And she's like, "Yeah, but you don't have to get angry." I was like, "Yeah, but don't you realize the part you're playing in triggering me?" And she's like, "But they're your emotions." Why? And I'm like, you don't get it. Like you got, and she's like, but you're still choosing to get angry. And I'm like, why are you listening to me? Why do you listen to the philosophy that I tell you?
The example that I think that came to mind when you were talking now is that you always explain, which I think fits well here, is the example of if it's raining. If it's raining and there's been a drought and you have a veggie, it's been a hot summer and there's a veggie garden and you desperately need to be watered. It rains and you're happy. But if you have a birthday party planned outside and it rains, you're sad. But the rain is just rain. You've chosen to be happy or sad. And I think it's important to view certain circumstances like that if you can remove yourself from them and realize that if you start saying, well, the rain has made me sad, that's blaming the world on your problems instead of taking ultimate responsibility for those emotions that you hold.
Yeah. So, and I hope you take that into, say, a workspace or anywhere that's you've got something going on. If you're saying, well, they are doing this, therefore, you understand you're giving away your problems, and you can turn around and be like, Don, that's not how it is. You don't understand. There's more things. And it's like, actually, at the end of the day, any situation that you're going through, no matter how big, how bad, you have a choice. Some of them suck balls. To bring in a crude statement, I'm really sorry, I haven't used it in a while. Some of them really suck. And I do realize that sometimes you're just going to have to accept that, like, you're going to put your blame somewhere else. But that's an extreme. Like you've just lost your legs and you're blaming the world because you lost your legs. Genuinely, let's sit in that for a little bit. But if you can find that perspective and realize how far away are you from being in that situation, realistically, the problems aren't that big. So don't give them to the world to determine your destiny. Like, you're the captain of your ship. You control, you steer the boat. So when you're going towards a rock and you're like, that rock's in my way, this is so unfair. It's like, we'll just turn the ship and go around it.
And what's funny, what came to mind when we were talking about this is that, like, if you are dealing with something negative, maybe let's not take the losing a limb example, but let's take, like, there's a bad situation at work.
It was a context giver, okay? It was just a context giver.
Let's take the work's not so great and you're really frustrated and you're like, I need to look for another job. It's actually a funny situation here, because so the key we're talking about here is to stop blaming the world or your situation on your problems or for how you feel. But it's funny how if you can reverse that energy and actually bring a positive energy, how that problem, I'm going to say problem in inverted commas here, actually isn't maybe such a problem when you approach it from a different angle. And a great example I heard in a book recently. I'll say I heard. I was I was listening to Audible. That's why I heard it in a book.
Oh, yeah, okay,
I know. I wasn't reading. Yeah.
You came upon it in a book.
Yes. I hope I don't absolutely butcher this
Don't
example,
worry about it.
But let me give it a go. She was the author was talking about how she was trying to help people see the best in a situation. There was this lady who just said, I'm absolutely miserable at my job. There's nothing. I hate my job. I need to find a new place to work. It's awful. So her recommendation was, can you please just let's sit down. I want you to write down 10 things you like about your job. And she's like, what? Why would, there's nothing nice about my job. I've just told you I want to change my job. I'm miserable. I can't carry on, but until I find something else, I have to stay there. So she's like, so there's nothing you like about the job? She's like, no. She's like, oh, so you doing the work for free then? So it's a charity job. She's like, no, I'm paid. So I'm like, she's like, oh, and you don't like getting paid? She's like, okay, I like getting paid. And she wrote that I like getting paid. And so from there, she was able to, when she really thought about it, actually write out like 10 things that she liked about her job. Because she's like, actually, I kind of like, I don't know, I can't remember the examples they gave in the book, like the cafeteria and things like that. And, I did actually have a really good, because she at first she was like, oh, everyone at work is awful. But then she's like, no, I did have a really good conversation with Sam, whatever. Anyway, like 6 months later, and she had a conversation with her again. And she was like, you know what, actually, I'm really enjoying my job. Like, there's great people. And she was, because she was looking for the positives, instead of just like going, woe is me, blaming the world for, where she's unhappy. When she really started to look for the positives, those positives, there were more positives, and actually create a positive loop. So where instead of that spiral downwards, you can create an upward spiral, and you can actually reverse the situation.
Use spiral. Oh, nice. Listen carefully. That's an example of you create your own reality. So the rain was coming in that situation, and that lady saw all the negatives. She was unhappy about the situation. As soon as she saw a different reality, because she was like, oh, I do get paid and all that, her life changed. Nothing else changed in her job other than her approach and her mindset. So she created a different reality.
She just started looking only for the negatives.
Yeah.
And I think if you can break that cycle in 2025, but stop blaming the way you feel on your situation, then you can often pull yourself out of situations.
Look at what you do have, not what you don't have. If you're grateful for what you do have, you will move forward.
Okay, number 6.
Moving forward, stop saying I am, followed by negative reinforcement. It's so obvious, but people are so blind to it when they do it. Oh, I am a procrastinator. I am anxious. I am depressed. I am lazy. I am fat. I am not good enough at this. And it's like,
I am a bad mom.
You don't realize how often you reinforce yourself with an I am. And because you don't realize it, it's because you believe it so badly that you don't even question it. So all I'm asking us to do is question, just let your mind now, your listening computer chimp, whatever it is, just look out for the I ams and what follows it and catch yourself. Or if you don't want to catch it yourself, catch it within other people. And be like, oh, because they often will complain about something, and then a sentence or two later will say, I am lazy. So they've complained that they aren't active enough and they don't know what to do. And then they are just, I'm a lazy person. And then so you can see what they're blind to, but they're complaining about the reality that they've created. And then you'll start to look in the mirror and you're like, that's me. But in this situation, you're like, oh my goodness.
And awareness, is helpful. Just having that awareness too. But you'll still catch yourself, maybe even for a few more months saying it. But as you become more aware, you'll do it less often. Yeah. The other one that I thought we could throw in there with the I am is my. So my asthma, my hay fever,
my sadness, my depression, my anxiety, my this, my
as
that.
I say that, I sneeze. Because It's that I am and the my, that you're taking ownership of it. But what you need to do is whenever they say negative is try and separate that from who you are and not take ownership of it. You can say like the hay fever I'm struggling with, because it doesn't belong to you. That hay fever is not yours. And the same with negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And see, it sounds so minor. And I feel like to a degree, if people are listening to this, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so woo-woo. That's so just like, come on, does it really matter? But it really does. All these things add up over time. Like we've seen massive changes just from doing so much in our lives. And when you've helped other people to think differently, Don, it's made a big difference in their lives too.
Yeah, and I think does like you create your own reality. So therefore separate the things that don't serve you. And the first way you start to separate is stop taking ownership of the things that don't serve you. And it's as simple as just questioning your language. And like Ray says, it's just, you don't have to change anything. You just have to be aware of it. Once you're aware of it, it's so much easier to pass it on. So stop trying so hard and just chill out a little bit and observe. Just observe yourself and you'll be very surprised. Like Big Brother, go Big Brother can.
Okay, number 7, we're here at the penultimate number 7.
This is it. This is the big one.
And this is the one we said that we feel like could have the greatest impact. And I think it's the biggest impact. I'll just tee it up.
You go for it.
Is actually, no, I was going to say it for men, but actually I think it's as relevant for men as it is for women. But
yeah, interesting. Let's see how that goes, because it is the one that for me has made the biggest difference in what I do, and recognizing there's still areas where I still don't do the thing that I know I should be doing.
So Don started doing this in the last sort of 2 or 3 months of 2024, and you're definitely going to stop, continue with
bring the focus back in, and it's essentially stop explaining myself. Or if you're listening to this, stop explaining yourself. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Of course I have to explain myself. How are people going to understand? How often are you going to catch yourself explaining instead of asking a question? And because
it'd be great to give an example.
I mean, I'm explaining myself.
Yes.
Yeah. So what kind of question do you want me to ask? I mean, what kind of example do you want me to ask?
No, it's just I can't think of an example.
See what I did there? Look at that, guys. See? It's so subtle. But essentially, Ray was like, you need to do this. And instead of me going, I stopped myself. I was like, I'm going to ask you a question.
It would be great to get an example, because I'm sitting here thinking, I know you have done the stop explaining yourself in practice. We spoke about a lot. But I actually can't think of a good example to give them.
Well, can you think of an example?
No, I can't.
Can you try to think of an example?
Stop asking me questions.
See how, even though she knows it's happening. So the examples, I mean, the obvious ones are going to be with kids. Daddy, why are there stars in the sky? What's the first thing that you're going to do? Oh, well, you know, the sun, or you're going to make up a story and you're going to explain to them. But actually, you're not helping people develop when you explain, and you're giving away your power. So, Daddy, why are there stars in the sky? Well, why do you think there's stars in the sky? Immediately, you're putting the question back on them, and they have to go, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's this. And you start to get them into a spiral of like thinking and questioning. Now, if you're in a business, if you're in a workplace, and we actually did help someone go through this the other day, is they had someone that kept questioning. They were kind of like, oh, why are you doing that process? And they kept explaining. And they said, I've been in this loop for about 5 weeks now. This person keeps coming at me and asking me why I'm doing it this way. And even when I explain, they don't ask. So I said, just ask them a question back. And they said they went in the next day. They're like, why do this? And they go, well, why do you think I did it? That person explained why they did. And he was like, no, that's not why it is here. And they're like, oh.
Sometimes it's just about asking more questions instead of, I think maybe it's that example makes you think like initially the person would feel like, oh, they question me. I have to, like, it's almost like it's a fear-based response to then go into an explanation instead of like, if you can move out of fear and actually be inquisitive as to why that person's coming to you, but that takes more confidence.
And it does. But what I want you to try and think about here is, yes, it's great. Here's another thing. There's 7 things we're going to do, and another million podcasts, and I all say it. But the layer that I really want you to think about isn't the asking questions as a tool. It's the think about how you feel in that interaction when you're consciously going, I'm not going to explain myself. I'm going to ask a question. And you will notice a massive power shift that you would never have seen before. So when you do, like if we're having a conversation and normally you would explain and you just go, oh, I'm going to ask a question here. Notice how like your body language will almost automatically change. And you'll just be like, wow, did that really just work? And when you consciously go in and try and do it, you'll notice a shift in the energy that that other person isn't necessarily aware of. And once you start to be aware of it, think about the people that you interact with that ask questions that you never thought about why they were so effective. So like a really good coach shouldn't be over explaining. They should just ask questions, because it's like they are holding their power and making you explain and understand, and it gains you understanding. But if you are in a business sense or a parenting sense or a spousal sense, and especially as a man, like if I'm finding myself explaining to you all the time, it doesn't make...
Well, like a picture of husband and wife, I come home and be like, why didn't you, I don't know, put the rubbish out?
Yeah. And so instead of me going, oh, it's because I had this and this, and I say, well, actually, what do you think I was doing instead? Immediately, like...
In a nice friendly way.
Yeah, you ask him in a nice way. Immediately, like Ray would be like, oh, I suppose you were dealing with the kids and you may have been doing this.
Yes.
Oh, I completely understand.
And sometimes it's not even about like you defending yourself in that situation. It's taking the person who's asked the question and helping them to see something that they maybe wouldn't have seen before.
Yeah, that's a really good example.
Yeah.
So it's the same with like when the kids say, "Oh, why are you shouting at me?" And it's like, what makes you think I'm shouting? And then they say, because you raise your voice or it's your body language. You're like, okay, now I understand.
Instead of saying to them, I've asked, like, if you go back to another example, I've asked you 10 times, and just say, well, why do you think?
And if you start to ask questions, you don't ask 10 times.
And actually, a really amazing example that I heard on Instagram of this really lovely, like, parenting mom account that I follow, that is a perfect example of using questions instead of explaining myself. And it's worked like, this is my little golden nugget if you're a parent, is when your kids talk to you disrespectfully, like shouting or agitated, or they ask you something in a way you don't like, instead of explaining, you should be asking me nicer.
Don't speak to me like that.
Or don't talk to me, or explaining. You just go in a very light-hearted, inquisitive way, like almost look around you and say, who are you talking to? Like, is there someone else in the room? And then they'll go, I'm talking to you. And you go, and who am I? And they'll go, my mom or my dad. And you're like, oh, and how should you talk to your mom or your dad? And they'll go respectfully, and they like have answered their own thing without you having to educate them. You'll be surprised how often asking a question they actually know the answer, so you don't have to keep repeating yourself.
And
we've been using it now for a couple of weeks, and honestly, hey, it's
helped us not to explain and them start to develop.
And themselves. That's the exact script I've used about 50 times
a day.
No,
I'm joking. Yeah. Well, not really. Yeah. We have 4 kids, so technically it's only like 5 per kid if my maths is correct.
Yeah.
10. No, it's if you want to go to one layer deeper, it's how you engage the human, not the chimp. How you engage the conscious, not the subconscious. So when kids are acting automatically, they're chimp and they're rude, it's because they are like in that fight or flight, or they're beta
you
wave.
Respond to that.
And by you asking a question, you're raising the level of conversation and you're trying to get their human to human interaction. Because if you go down to the chimp versus chimp, it's like it's a survival game. It's who's the more powerful being here, and the biology is going to take over. So yeah, that's our 7. I actually really did enjoy that 7th one. It is so powerful when you like, if you take that 7 one and you just put like ask more questions as a reminder, and you just put it above your laptop screen and just practice it, write it on your hand, and notice in the next conversation you have, when you're having conversations, just
and you catch yourself explaining
ask more
yourself,
questions. And notice the difference. And then what will happen is in 2 weeks' time, you'll forget about it. And then in 6 months' time, you'll reminded, and you're like, oh, I need to do that. And the more you can remind yourself, the more natural it become. And then you'll just do it all the time.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I was desperately trying to think of a question back to him. Have you enjoyed these 7 tips?
Yes, there is a point where
and listen, and imagine having a whole conversation where everyone's just asking questions.
Do you think we could have one like that?
I think we could. What is everyone who's listening to this episode think?
There we go. We'll put it on you. So let us know what you think in the comments.
That would be amazing. And also, we haven't seen it in a while. Comment. We love seeing comments, whether it's on YouTube or there is the ability to comment on podcasts, which I only discovered recently.
We've had people commenting on our podcast page. I've seen you guys. I've seen you.
Don's seen it, but I haven't. And otherwise, also subscribe, follow. We really appreciate kind of having that indication that there's people out there who want to hear more of what we have to say.
Yeah. And our next challenge is going to be
In March.
So start to look out for where we start to put things out there. Slightly new twist, by the way. Which will be...
Oh, yes. Okay, I know the twist. I was like, what twist is he on about? Okay,
the challenge will be the same, but yeah, the twist will be an interesting a slight direction shift.
What if you are wanting to make sure you don't miss out on the challenge and you're a keen bean? If you go to identityhuman.com, the wait list is there if you want to be the first to be notified when the doors to our next challenge are open.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's gonna bring us to an abrupt halt. And I hope you're having a great week. I hope life is treating you well. And if it's not, I hope you can find the time to question yourself, to realize what you can be grateful for, and realize that you're an incredible individual. And
you've just inspired me on a point.
Okay.
We've spoken about how asking other people questions is important, but do you know how important it is asking yourself questions? So when you get stuck in the loop of being like, I'm bad, I'm this, you should always, it's a great question to ask yourself is, if you were truly loved, or if you truly love yourself, what would you do in this situation? And sometimes actually you know the answers, but you aren't asking yourself the right questions. So the whole theme of asking questions applies not only to other people, but to yourself.
Ask yourself some questions and see what you answer. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ray, for that bombshell. Thank you for being a bombshell. I haven't heard that laugh in a while. Okay, have a great week, everyone. Remember, I'll work on me for you if you work on you for me. Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. Bye.